a little bit about Miami as a technology hub. And so we are ranked high in higher than the top 10 of new places to start a business. I think we were number 2 in startups, and we are now rivaling Silicon Valley for what's happening with regard to technology in Miami. There is an exciting event that started in Miami just a few years ago, and it's called Emerge. And Jansen is here and used to be with Emerge and has seen the kinds of things that have happened. But when we go and exhibit at that event, there are new companies that are there from all over the world. And the number of participants there from all over Latin America is absolutely fascinating. So we thought that hearing what's going on with Miami as the new technology hub would be a great thing to do. Take your place on stage as soon as you're mic'd, gentlemen and lady. So, Jansen Pennock is a technology consultant, and he is going to be our moderator and one of our participants. Anna, your last name is? Prisse. Oh, it's too easy. Prisse. I was trying to make it French. Anna Prisse is with WeWork. Oh, now I'm really in trouble. Juha Mikkola? Not bad. Close enough. With Winwood. And do we have Natalia?
Winwork.
No? All right. Jason, take it away.
Are we on? There we go. Can you guys hear me okay? Perfect. Perfect. So first of all, thank you to Teresa and Linda for bringing this panel together. We've got, may have a late breaking change since one of our participants was caught in traffic. So my name is Jansen Pennock. As Teresa was mentioning, for the past 3 years, I've spent some time as Director of Business Development for Emerge Americas. Emerge Americas is a large-scale technology and innovation conference that happens every year here at the Miami Beach Convention Center. It will be coming up in June 2017 on the 12th and 13th. I still do some work with Emerge and then also represent a portfolio of technology companies here in South Florida. So on the panel, immediately to my left, or your right, is Anna Prisse from WeWork. And beside Anna, we have Juha Mikkola from WinCode. One of the things that we wanted to do was bring together folks that really represent sort of the core infrastructure of what's happening here in South Florida. Basically, WeWork is a community that's built around co-working, and WinCode provides technical education in terms of being a coding school that has launched its first location originally in the Wynwood neighborhood, which I believe you guys had the chance to visit, and then is expanding throughout South Florida. So I will let Anna and Juha introduce themselves and tell you a little bit more about their organizations.
Awesome. Thank you. Can you guys hear me? Cool. Hi, my name is Anna. I am the Senior Community Manager of Miami WeWork. So that means that I get to oversee all of the exciting things we're doing as we're growing and expanding. So as Jansen said, we're a lot of things, most commonly known as a co-working space. But the thing that we really try to do is build a community for our members. I see a few members here in the audience, so that's super exciting for me as well. But we're a global community, really. So I'm excited to kind of talk about Miami and Miami as a tech hub and how that kind of plays into our global WeWork community and the global community around the world.
Cool. Hello, everyone. My name is Juha. I'm one of the co-founders of WinCode Academy. As Jansen mentioned, we're a code school or an accelerated learning program. So what we're actually doing is taking people who quit their jobs or whatever career path they're on and immersing them in a 10-week intensive program during which we teach them to code. So they'll spend 10 to 12 hours a day with us learning coding skills, and at the end they present an app that they've built, they've conceived, and come up with on their own. at a pitch day event where we'll often have a couple hundred investors, tech leaders, and developers. And after that, we help them get a job. And the majority of those jobs have actually been here in Miami, which is really awesome. We launched in Wynwood, our first location, in May 2014. Since then, we've graduated 350 people. We have a location in Fort Lauderdale now as well. We maintain a 97% job placement rate after the program, which we're very proud of. As I mentioned, over 100 companies have hired, majority here, which is a big, I think, positive to how the tech scene is growing here. And recently, we were actually selected as the South Florida Business Journal Startup of the Year. So we're very proud of that and honored for that selection.
And joining us, we now have Maria.
Hi,
so Maria, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
My name is Maria Derchi Russo. I'm the Director of Operations for Refresh Miami. We're the largest tech and entrepreneurial meetup group in South Florida and in probably the Southeast. We have about 9,000 members. We're a nonprofit. Essentially, we host monthly speaker events, hands-on workshops, and networking opportunities for all with the intent to grow the tech and entrepreneurial community. And actually, this Friday, we're turning 10 years old. So Brian Breslin started it back in 2007. At our events, we typically have anywhere between 300 to 500 local entrepreneurs and developers, designers, anyone in the tech field attend. So we're really a resource for the community. Our website also provides a community calendar that promotes not just our events, but events that are going on in the community. We have a local job board, and we have a resource map that outlines all the resources available to folks in the community. So anything from boot camps to accelerators to VC funds, all that kind of is easily laid out in this map.
Excellent. Actually, one of the things that I forgot to mention is, could each of you also add where you're from originally?
I'm from New Jersey, but I've been in Miami for 10 years, so this feels like home, especially working amongst so many amazing, talented people. It's going to be very hard to leave.
I was actually born in Finland. I spent the last 12 years in Toronto, in Canada. I moved down here with my wife, Joanna, to start WinCode 2.5 years ago. I really love Miami. It's awesome to be part of a city where you can actually help create a wave rather than try to join a wave. It's been a really exciting few years, and looking forward to what's in store for Miami.
Born and raised in Miami, I've left twice, and it always brought me back, and so I think I'm here for good now.
That's good. No, it's one of the things that I always really like asking because in any given conversation in South Florida, you will have people obviously from all over the world. This is a very multicultural environment, and it's really one of the key strengths that we try to build on in sort of creating the tech community here. So kind of leading on that note, sometimes there are entire panel discussions or even entire days devoted to a topic that we, within the tech community, jokingly refer to as Why Miami? There are endless discussions about it. So one of the things that I wanted to get each of you to comment on so that we can kind of get it out of the way right at the start is why your organizations decided to root themselves here and what led to that decision. Maybe we can go with Juha first since you had the most dramatic.
Okay, yeah. All right. Not prepared, but okay. We'll do it. No, I think it's really exciting to see what's going on in Miami. I think Jansen hit a point on kind of how much Miami is trying to promote itself as a tech hub, and I think that's very important. But what we see is like actually what's going on today, and I think there's a lot going on already. I think too commonly people are like, well, is it going to be the next Silicon Valley? Is it going to be the next Austin? Is it Boulder? Is it New York? Miami is none of those things, nor should it try to be any of those things. Miami is a global city. It has so many things going for it, and technology is everywhere. Every single city of Miami's size will be a very important trade and logistics hub. That means it's going to be a very important technology hub. There's no way to get around that. And we can't sit back and wait for Silicon Valley to solve Miami's tech problems. There's going to be a lot of things that are being developed locally, and when we look through our roster of hiring partners and which companies are hiring the most developers, we do see trends. Healthcare is definitely something that we have a lot of students get jobs in, and I think that's a natural with how huge the healthcare system is here. We're also seeing things around tourism and some things around logistics, but you're also seeing consumer-facing apps. Like, for example, today I needed a car wash. I used Washi. I don't know how many people have used that. That's a South Florida startup that is now scaling across. You have companies all the way to the level of Magic Leap, which have raised billions of dollars from Google Ventures. So this stuff is already happening here. It's not a matter of like how do we promote it. But I think the key differentiation for us is You need companies that are actually writing the code here. You don't want companies that are opening a sales office here. And that was kind of how it started. You had maybe Facebook doing sales here, or Twitter doing ad sales, whatever it might have been. You need people actually creating the technology, because we need Miami to be able to speak that language and be able to create these apps and develop what we need that's going to be cutting edge and on par with what's happening in these global centers.
And I think that's actually one of the things that you see that's very different between the tech community and the traditional community of Latin American headquarters, that oftentimes people come down here and they look at the list of businesses that have a significant presence in South Florida, and they say, wow, this is amazing. Look at all these amazing companies that are down here. And often the folks that are at those companies, as Juha mentioned, are folks that are, maybe high-ranking executives, but spend Monday through Thursday evening traveling. They're not really part of the local South Florida community. So the efforts that actually all three of these organizations put together are really designed to build a community here. So maybe Anna, you can follow on that.
We opened our first Miami location in July of 2015, last year. I'm excited to say that we are opening our third and fourth locations in Q1 of next year here in Miami. Across the globe, we have over 120 locations. So Miami is really important to us as a global community, because it is a place where we are building companies, where we are seeing companies come into the space brand new and watching them grow. When we opened in July of 2015, we had one-person companies coming in and joining our community, and now they're graduating into spaces for 30 or 40 people. So it's incredible to see that growth. I get to see it firsthand every day, so I'm very, very lucky. But at the same time, WeWork does give them the platform to be able to connect across the globe as well. So we're giving them these resources that a lot of companies come to Miami to see, to find. The gateway to Latin America, the ties we have in our companies to Europe, to Asia. As WeWork grows and has that global community, it's amazing to see the Miami companies that are growing take advantage of that as well. So all across the world that we're seeing new talent coming in, as well as building the current talent. It's super exciting for us to watch that growth on a local level and see how it becomes part of the global transformation that we're seeing across all WeWorks around the world. But Miami is super exciting for us. We're opening our Brickell City Center location in January of next year, which is going to be a great sort of flagship location for us in Miami, and kind of tap into a neighborhood we haven't tapped into before.
And Maria, as the voice of Refresh, who was basically here before anyone started talking about a tech hub or a serious tech community in Miami, how have you guys seen things develop over the past, you said 10 years now?
Obviously, it's grown. I think just between 2012 and now, we went from, I think, 2,500 members to 9,000. So you could see, the interest, and it's been huge. I think more and more we're seeing founders that are sometimes asked to move to places like Silicon Valley or New York kind of put their foot down and say, no, I'm staying in Miami. So people are really kind of setting up shop here. Obviously, it gives them a much more longer runway when you're working with, tight budgets, as opposed to living in some of the more expensive cities. So our standard of living obviously has a huge thing going for it. And so we're definitely seeing, back when Brian started the organization, he had just moved back here from college, and there was like 4 guys in a Starbucks meeting, and he saw the need that there was not, this conversation going on in a place where he could really gain expertise and get advice from like-minded folks. So, it came out of a need that he had. And now there's events every day of the week, and it's not just us. So we're figuring out, now that the kind of landscape has shifted, what does the community need? And kind of what we see here most is access to funding, more like the Series A and beyond, and access to talent. So we're trying to find ways of how do we keep our talent as well as attract talent from outside. So what are we doing to really train folks starting early on, and to keep them here and to make sure that the jobs are available for them? And how are we also making sure that the companies find that talent? So there seems to be a disconnect between there's a ton of talent and there's a ton of positions available, but those two folks aren't really talking to each other. So I think there are clear issues that we can definitely work towards, and it can only help improve the community.
For sure. And as someone who definitely has their finger on the pulse of the talent question, this is one of the things that probably gets brought up the most. Generally, when you look up the development of any tech hub, there are a couple of major components that you need to have. You need to have higher educational institutions as well as sort of coding schools providing technical talent to that ecosystem. You need to have a group of companies that can then absorb that talent, whether it be traditional enterprise corporations or startups. And then you need to have government programs that are helping to support that, as well as venture capital. Juha, as someone that is living and breathing this on a daily basis, how have you seen the talent situation in South Florida evolve over the time that you've been here?
Well, first of all, the method that we're using to teach is considered non-traditional. This isn't a 4-year computer science degree. So at the beginning, there were companies that were so starved for talent that they were willing to talk to us. But I think now as we've grown, it's become easier and easier because companies are seeing that the talent has always been here. It's just been a matter of looking at it from a different lens and retraining it. I mean, we have people who have worked as a concierge or a real estate agent or a lawyer or an accountant who have come back and either used the skill set to get a job and a career that they find very engaging, or they've used it to build their own startup. So I think that is important, that the talent is here. We just have to kind of look at it a different way and be open to supporting them, training them, and then helping them as they kind of grow in their careers. But the other thing that's very important is Miami traditionally has really relied on outsourced developer talent. So a lot of companies were maybe based here, like their sales team again was maybe based here, but a lot of the talent and the actual code was being written offshore. And that's a very difficult way to scale a startup. If you're a technology company and your key differentiator is our technology is super cool and takes you 12 hours before you can call your developer because of time difference, and they've never met your customers and they have no idea what you do, that's a very difficult way to build a startup that has to respond today within 5 minutes to a new version that you have to launch. So I think that is something that's slowly changing. And the other thing that also was relied upon was trying to get talent from outside Miami to move here. The issue is that we can't compete because every city is trying to do that. Every city needs senior development talent. So we have to look at it with that new lens and start training people and get that new generation going here. And we do have some great higher education partners as well that are doing it. The difference with a program like ours is it's very vocational. It's very job skills based. So we're looking at open source technologies that startups are using today in a very quick, condensed fashion. And then that complements people who are maybe doing a 4-year computer science engineering degree who are more focused on the theory and the big picture. So I think it's a good sign for what's going on here. And we definitely see that more and more talent is staying here. And I think that's to everyone's advantage and gives more faith to companies that want to either relocate from elsewhere to Miami or stay in Miami as they scale.
For sure. No, definitely. And then just to get a quick show of hands from the audience, how many of you folks have any experience writing a line of code for any type of program? A couple, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so there's a handful. Juha, in your experience, why should everyone in this room be concerned about learning to code, and how difficult is it really for them to get at least an initial grasp on it?
First of all, I'm really impressed that there were so many hands. That wasn't a lot of hands, but there are a few hands out there. So good for you guys. I think when you look at it, a lot of people make the assumption, one, that coding is extremely difficult, or two, that you don't need it for what you're doing. And one of the things that all of us can do is you can all write. It doesn't mean all of you guys are going to be authors. That's not the point. You need a certain level of skill set and proficiency to understand what written language is all about. It's the same thing with coding. Every single company, if it hasn't already been disrupted by technology, will be disrupted by technology. It's happening. It's all around us. There's no way to get away from that. And if you don't speak the language and you don't understand how it works, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to have a really tough time. And it's not as easy as just being like, oh, I'm going to outsource that or I'll hire somebody to do that. It's so core that you need to understand how to do it. So we see people who are very successful entrepreneurs who sell a business who are like, I need to throw myself into this and actually learn how it's done so that I can manage developers and build projects. But I encourage everybody there's so many resources online that are absolutely free where you can go and get some experience doing this. And we're actually providing corporate training now as well, where we're helping companies understand the level of proficiency that they need to kind of figure out the next steps. But as we go forward in technology just becoming more and more around us every single day, you're not going to be in a position where you should be ignoring this. It really is something that is super important. And you know, like I said, I commend the people out there who've taken the first steps to look at it. But definitely look at the facts, like Bloomberg having a double issue that was only about coding in the last 6 months. The reason that they did that is it is extremely important to get that level of understanding so you can figure out where your company and your business is going to go in the future in that aspect.
And Maria, having seen sort of the growth of the developer community here in South Florida, are you seeing a lot more sophistication now in terms of the types of coding that folks are doing, the types of projects that they're taking on? Have you seen it kind of grow beyond just the numbers? Have you seen it grow in sort of degrees of sophistication as well?
Sorry, what was the last one?
Whether you've seen the development community become more sophisticated as it's grown in size.
On what Juha mentioned, there's definite kind of niches and kind of forming. So we have health obviously as one, augmented reality, virtual reality as another. Tourism has always kind of been there, but logistics is, you know, huge for Miami. So we are starting to see them all, the kind of focuses starting to come out in little buckets of companies that are all kind of solving related problems. So in that regard, yeah, they're becoming more sophisticated, and with the rise of, you know, WinCode and coding in general, there's definitely been a lot more, you know, talent available, I would say.
And Anna, to bring this sort of to more of a point around commercial real estate, obviously the co-working movement is one of the biggest disruptors that we've seen locally, at least in the space. Can you talk to the folks here a little bit about the types of companies that you find within, you know, coming to WeWork, what the sort of cultural advantages are that you are giving them by providing the space to them, and maybe how this differs from a traditional Regis type model that a lot of people may be familiar with, you know, that's been going on since the 80s or 90s.
Right. So we're definitely seeing all different kinds of companies coming into the space. We've had both people sitting on stage with me in our space before. So some really, you know, truly tech organizations, and then we have realtors in our space. I won't call them out, but there's a person in here who works, he's right here in the front. He's in our space, you know? So there's all different kinds of companies that come into the space. In terms of the industries that we see, I can't really even give you numbers, but it's all across the board. Our 2 locations open on Miami Beach. We see, is that me? We see some trends, food and beverage, hospitality, marketing, consulting, real estate, law, but we definitely see the most common factor being that the people who are there want to be part of a community. So in terms of the sophistication of code and the development of code is one thing, but the accessibility and the kind of on-demand of coders and developers, that's something that works really well in our space, but it's the same way that it works if you need a notary, or if you need, you know, someone to help you with social media campaigns. All the people that are in our space are there because they're connected with other like-minded folks who are doing business across the board. So whatever that may be, whatever that needs, whatever that can offer, that's what WeWork helps to kind of create a culture around. So if someone comes to me over coffee and says, hey, Anna, I have to design this flyer for this property I'm listing, and you know, I have this, what do you think? I would say, you know what, you should go talk to that graphic designer on the 4th floor, they can help you. Or, you know, where's the social media inclusion on this listing? Do you want to put that on? Go talk to the agency on the 3rd floor. They can help you get social media involved in your listings. So from a commercial real estate context, being within the space in that industry, there's plenty of other people there that can help you to really kind of grow your business. Now, commercial real estate from the kind of WeWork side and the spaces that we're taking, that's a whole sort of other thing. I don't know if we really want to go into that. But it is very exciting to see all the industries within the space and how they play together. Really, the culture that we provide is that of working together. Our mission statement is to create a world where people work to make a life and not just make a living. So helping people provide these resources, provide people that can help them, that can make their life easier at the end of the day so that they can kind of take advantage of this beautiful city we live in. The quality of life is so high. The weather, at least now, starting again, is so beautiful. So we're there to really facilitate the connections and the sort of organic interactions that they need to grow their business. And obviously we do this on a local level in Miami, but we do have a digital platform and a digital network similar to kind of Facebook meets LinkedIn that allows the members to connect across the globe as well. So if you are doing business in other cities, if you do need recommendations on an agency in London, if you need, whatever it may be, a contractor in Mexico City, you can use our platform, the WeWork platform, as a member to connect with those folks as well. So the culture around the companies that we see coming in is that of working together.
Yeah, that collaborative focus is something that I think is one of the biggest differentiators from some of the previous co-working models that you might have been familiar with. You know, it's not a new concept to say, okay, fine, we're going to set aside some space, rent out some desks, and kind of go about it that way. But the idea that you can bring like-minded folks together in a collaborative space and create these collisions and be able to, you know, generate new ideas that way is something that both startups and existing companies are really looking to do. But rather than have me talk about it, Juha is actually living in this space, in multiples of these spaces on a daily basis. Can you talk a little bit about how that has worked out for WinCode?
Definitely. I mean, it's been a deliberate part of our model has been to actually be in co-working spaces. And spaces like WeWork, I think what they've identified is like the way people work is changing. It's not the way that it used to be. Like people's dream, if you're starting up your own company, it's not to have your own office anymore in a industrial park where you get a good deal on rent for 5 years. That's not what people are looking for, especially younger millennial entrepreneurs or people working at companies. They want to be in an inspirational space. Like they want to come in somewhere where they feel part of a community, where they can contribute, where they can network with other people, where you're going to run into a future business partner or start something up together as your next venture, your side hustle, whatever you're working on. So I think that's what's worked really well for us, is that we can immerse our students not in a traditional campus, which is we want to be a school that has the heart of a startup. We don't want to be considered a traditional educator, and that helps when we're in awesome spaces where people are really enjoying what they're doing and having a fun time and feeling empowered to like make that change every single day when they get there. And I think if I was in the real estate business, and I'd love to be, I love what you guys do. It's very, very exciting and interesting. I would be making sure that I'm capitalizing on that trend, because people are not looking for what they used to look for. There's a big difference. I think WeWork is leading the world in that globally, realizing that like this change is happening, and you guys have done an amazing job scaling up to be first in the market in all of these cities, because the demand is just building for this style of work. And I think we're only going to see more and more of it as kind of this concept that started in technology is now everywhere. You have real estate agents, you have people from every industry wanting to work like this, because frankly, it's a lot more fun, it's a lot more engaging, and you're going to feel a lot more fulfilled working in that kind of environment.
I work out of WeWork Lincoln Road, and in planning our 10-year anniversary party, I approached Anna and said, we want to get a liquor brand involved, and we need items printed, and we need a wine sponsor. And just within the network, she said, okay, Juan works on the 4th floor. Go speak to him. He represents a wine brand. So just within the WeWork network, I was able to kind of capitalize on all these connections and get all these kind of companies who wanted to be involved in supporting. And then I also know one of our sponsors who has an ad agency. He has his own physical office in Fort Lauderdale, but he's specifically now looking to just place like 1 or 2 people within a co-working space down in Miami, just so that they can kind of stay in touch with what's going on, get access to those connections in that community. So even folks that have a physical office are looking for ways to how do they break into those networks. So it's definitely a sign of what Juha mentioned is, things are changing now.
For sure, for sure. It's also something that it's very interesting, because often when people think about, or locally anyways, when people think about collaborative working environments, one of the first places they will often think of is Wynwood. And I think we heard one of the previous speakers talking a little bit about the lab. The lab kind of was pretty much first to market in this, came to Wynwood. But WeWork, for instance, you guys now have 2 locations on the beach, one in Brickell, and then another one coming up downtown Miami, correct? Correct. Right. Can you tell me a little bit about why you picked those locations and sort of what draws people to those areas?
Yeah. So WeWork is always a little surprising in the locations that we pick. I mean, we opened our first location in New York, which is, okay, fine. But if you look at other cities, you'll see that we do pick the less traditional locations. And the reason we do that, and one of the things that's been so successful about what we've done in Miami by starting in Miami Beach, is that we're giving that community to the people that wouldn't have had access to it otherwise. So you have Wynwood, and that's fantastic, and you have Panther, and I could drink that coffee all day long. But what about the people that live and work on the beach? What about the people that are working in hospitality, working in food and beverage, working in nightlife, and are starting to learn code, and are starting to create their own projects? We wanted to make sure that we're providing that infrastructure to people that wouldn't necessarily have access to it to begin with. As we expand in Miami, we're kind of doing it almost backwards, you know, if you think about it in one way. In Miami, we're expanding into Brickell City Center, we're expanding into downtown. But by starting on the beach, we created this incredible framework of really the people that like Juha said, want to create the wave, not just ride it along as it's been created. So we've been able to support companies that have been saying, you know, we've been waiting for this on the beach, we've been waiting for this to come to Miami. And that's been an incredible thing for us. We opened our first location on Lincoln Road, which has amazing connections to the heart of South Beach. We opened our second location south of 5th, which saw a totally different crowd. And as we open Brickell and downtown, we'll see that as well. So, you know, definitely reacting to what we see in the market, definitely reacting to the needs and the industries that we see, but also kind of, you know, planting our flag where we think that we can make something. Maybe there's not a need there, and maybe there should be. Maybe there's not a need for startups on the beach, and we've seen that, you know, they're there. So it's very exciting for us. In terms of what everyone in this room does in terms of real estate, I'm sure you know that finding space in different niches of the cities, people have their opinions about it. People say, I won't go there, I'll only go here, I won't cross the bridge. So we've been able to kind of help them find space as well. We have realtors, we have brokers coming to us saying, you know, I have a client, they need space in 6 months, for 6 months on the beach. What can we do? And we can work with them as well. So really helping find what people need is one way that we've been able to kind of serve the community in a less traditional location on Miami Beach.
And roughly how many of your tenants would you say are international?
A lot. I might be the only girl from New Jersey there. But no, I mean, it's incredible. We had our holiday party, instead of having a traditional holiday party, we had well, we called it Drink Around the World, but everyone who's international in the community set up their table that they hosted. So we had the French table with like hot wine, and we had the Russian table with like caviar and vodka. We had the Caribbean table with a rum punch. And it was incredible because the members sort of hosted that culture, and they stepped outside of their roles as realtor or social media agency or whatever it may be, and they were just kind of humans. And that international sort of crowd created all these incredible business connections as well, because people would say, oh, you're doing business in Russia, that's fantastic, I need someone doing business in Russia. Or you have connections in Latin America, great. So the international, if I had to give you a number, I would say, I mean, you guys are both in the space, I would say 60 to 75%. Wow.
And you, same question, within your student base, sort of rough percentage of folks coming from either outside of South Florida or outside of the US?
When we started, it was all South Florida based. Now that our reputation has grown and we've been able to show the outcomes that we do, we are attracting more students from outside. The majority, though, are definitely from the US, and still, I would estimate 75% are South Florida based. A lot of people that we've actually seen, which has been interesting, are people who have left South Florida. They're originally from here, and they've left to work in New York, or maybe they've worked in Boston or Chicago, and they're looking for a gateway back into the South Florida job market. So they'll actually use WinCode as a way to revamp their skill set and kind of pivot or rebuild their career in a new direction. And they combine that with the experience they've had working in a major market in the Northeast, and that's worked out really well for people. So that's interesting. It's kind of like a reverse brain drain, getting people back into the market here.
Excellent. So we've only got a few seconds left, but I wanted to give all three of our participants a chance to mention a couple of events. If for those of you in the room that are based locally, there's a lot of technology events happening on an ongoing basis. And I'll start with Maria, I guess.
So I mentioned it a little bit earlier. Our 10-year anniversary is actually this Friday. Both WeWork and WinCode are gracious sponsors of ours. So that'll take place Friday night in Wynwood at a place called Toe Jam. You can go to our website for more information. And then we're supporting another initiative a few weeks from now called The Future of Work, which basically takes on how their shift is happening, and that's in partnership with the design thinking. And we'll have something probably in the next few weeks to announce for December. But that'll sum it up.
From our end, we're all about hosting events, so we host a lot of things. I wanted to mention if anybody out there has an app idea, and how many have an app idea? How many people have an idea? I think that's there's got to be more than that. We do something called WinTank, where you can actually go on our site. It's winco.co/WinTank. You can come in and pitch your idea, and if the students like it, they'll build it for you for free as their final project. So that's a great way to see what they can actually do, as well as get something that you can start building a company or an idea around. We also do a one-day coding boot camp called Wintroduction. Yeah, no problem. It's called WinTank. So our website is wincode, wincode.co/WinTank, WYNTANK. Anything you can think of WinCode related, just add win to the front of it, and it's going to work for finding stuff about us. But we do a one-day coding boot camp called Wintroduction to Code, case in point. And then we also have an event that both the organizations here have supported a lot called Pitch Day, which ends up, now it's going to be on December 8th. It's a free community event where you can actually see the students present the apps that they've built. So we'll get up to 300 people at the event. Really a great time, and encourage all of you guys, if you're interested in tech, just come out and see it. Definitely make it to the 10-year anniversary party too, and it'll get you engaged in what's going on here. Yes? I can answer our demographic really quickly. So we basically have three. We get people who are essentially 19 to 25 years old. They've finished college. They've maybe done some college or no college at all, and they're looking at a way of reinventing themselves or kind of like learning technology because they didn't do a computer science degree or they didn't get into it. The other group that is actually our biggest is 25 to 35-year-old career changers. So these are people who have already built a career and they want to pivot and change their direction. And then the last group, which would be our smallest, is entrepreneurs. So these could be people, we've had students up to 50 years old who've completed the program successfully. And these are people who are like, I want to build a tech business and I need to learn the language and be able to build what's called an MVP, a minimum viable product that you can build at the end of our course and use that to raise money or get users or whatever else it might be.
Anna, did you have an event you wanted to promote?
No, but I would like to just chime in on that. At WeWork, we see all sorts of sort of demographics in terms of age range. Our online sort of magazine called Creator Magazine by WeWork just featured a top 40 over 40, and 4 members in our space were featured in that as well. So really just kind of speaking to all sorts of demographics. On the other hand, we have a ton of parents as well, and seeing the sort of like brain shift that children get when they come into the space, children, adolescents, teenagers, they kind of come in and they're like, oh my God, Mom, this is where you work. And seeing, as a psychology major, seeing that like brain shift of what work is for a child is incredible. So I have an event tomorrow night at South of 5th if you want to come. It's very fun.
Let's hear it for this great panel. We love what you're doing. Thank you all so much.